So we live in a fantastic world, don't we, where there are wonderful new developments, and one is struck by that in a very real sense coming from Europe to India, because India is a country of such fantastic growth, some fantastic creativity and so many opportunities. But it also, of course, faces some huge challenges. And with the FIGO committee over the last two to 3 days, we've been debating the issues of overweight and obesity and malnutrition, especially in young people, in young parents and their children. We've been talking about the problems of non-communicable diseases, that's heart disease and respiratory problems and some forms of cancer that develop as a result of development which is not optimal. So with my colleague Peter Gluckman, who was the Chief Science Advisor to the Prime Minister of New Zealand, over the last 2 years, we've been thinking about the challenges that the modern world faces in countries like India in relation to how humans, how all of us have got ourselves into this situation. What we do in the book is to actually go back into our evolutionary past and ask how it is that humans, whilst they've created so many wonderful things, have also created so many problems. And what we see is that it's the result actually of the very innovations, the very ingenuity that's led us uniquely as a species to create the world in which we live. We've created antibiotics which have wiped out many of the infectious diseases that killed our parents and our grandparents a generation or 2 generations ago. We've developed sources of power from fossil fuels which enable us to have electricity almost everywhere now, so that we can cook food, we can heat our houses, we can watch television and so on. We've developed processed foods, fast foods, which are extremely tasty, usually very widely available and cheap. And everybody loves to eat their burger and chips. So these are all great things, but when you look at it, every single innovation, almost without exception, that we've come up with has its downside, brings problems with it. Antibiotics have now led to the problem of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, bugs that we may not be able to treat with the drugs that we have, and which may lead to new epidemics of infectious disease that we won't be able to stop. We've obviously developed through fossil fuels the whole problem of climate change, and I was looking at the problems that Delhi's facing in terms of air quality on the television just before I came over here. Of course, fast foods have now generated the whole problem of obesity, especially in young people. And with the FIGO Pony Group, we've been talking about how the obesity in a woman and indeed in a man, even before they conceive a child, can pass on risk to the next generation. And then lastly, we've seen how the internet, for all the wonderful things that it gives us the ability to do, the kind of social media platforms that perhaps some of you will be seeing me on right now, actually also lead to some real challenges, because young people today are so aware of all the information that's out there, and yet they don't really have the ability to understand what information is real and what information has been manipulated in some way by the media and by the internet platform companies. So we really have to think about what that's doing to their sense of reality and actually to their mental health and some of the ways in which they will handle stress as they grow on and develop. So ingenious, the unintended consequences of human innovation. Doesn't have all the answers, it has some, but I think it poses the problems that particularly countries like India, with its enormous development, its enormous potential, will have to grapple with as we move forward.